Hey listeners, Shadows and Sightings is a paranormal comedy podcast. Though we keep things lighthearted, we understand some topics may be sensitive to some listeners. These topics include violence, gore, death, and suicide. If you have trauma related to any of these topics, express caution before listening. Thank you and enjoy the show. To our listeners out there, to another episode of Shadows and Sightings. We have a very special episode today with a guest speaker. I'm your host, Nick.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Courtney.
Welcome to the podcast, Courtney.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
It's pretty dope. This is actually a pretty monumental thing.
This feels very professional now.
It does, right?
Like we've upgraded.
We have a guest speaker now.
Yeah. Somehow we've upgraded.
We're getting there.
We fit her in the budget. I don't know how we did it.
Slowly but surely, we're getting there.
Paid with coffee and scones, that's how.
There you go. Exactly. Can't say no to that. Exactly.
No one. I beg you to answer the question, who can resist coffee and scones?
Probably diabetic. Probably.
I was thinking more like a cryptid or somebody in that field who could resist the coffee and scones, not like a real life medical condition person.
Like my grandma, like she like has.
Your grandma's a cryptid?
No. My
Surprise.
You didn't know? No, she's like, you know, but she's always like had fun with her like diabetes. My grandma, you shouldn't joke about that, grandma. And he's like, you only live once. Like,
it's true. My dad literally today, he's got diabetes. He's like, I had a piece of pie for breakfast. I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't think that's probably the best idea, but
yeah, and like, she like jokes about it. I'm like, grandma, you can't do that. Like you gotta take care of yourself.
You gotta live your life. Like, do what you want to do. You only get one life.
Yeah, exactly. She'll like call me out on like, if you don't let me enjoy this damn pancake, like, okay, I'm sorry. Like,
okay, but what cryptid could resist coffee and scones?
All right. If I was a cryptid,
not if you were one, based on your cryptid knowledge. Squonk.
Yeah, I mean,
you know anything about the squonk, Courtney?
No, I don't. Tell me about the squonk.
He's like a very ugly, crying little guy. It's a strange one. That's a Pennsylvania one, I think.
Yeah, and it's actually semi-new.
Oh, I didn't know there were new ones.
Different cryptids all the time.
Yeah, like just the crying cryptid.
Is that what they call it?
The crying cryptid, the squonk. It's very ugly, and that could be a whole nother episode within itself.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about the squonk.
Like its teardrops, like evaporate.
If you can find the tears, like lead you to where it's at.
But you can like never find it, and it's like it's a strange one.
He might accept the coffee and scones, though. He might be happy that somebody invited him in.
That's
He's
true.
He's probably lonely. He probably just wants a friend.
He could be very much in the vein of that.
Yeah, and then you offer him the coffee and the scones, and that's like his one weakness.
It's his one in.
It's like his one, yeah. Like, you know, I've been around here for 45 years, and no one has ever offered me coffee and scones. Like, what? I'm allergic.
And then more tears.
Yeah, and just that. Just the cycle repeats itself.
It's a vicious cycle.
I would say Loch Ness Monster would easily
resist the scones
he would
coffee? He would accept it.
He would accept it. Like, hands down.
He would be upset it's not tea.
That's true. He'd be losing his shit. Be like, that's not a scone. Like flip it out.
He's used to those Scottish scones.
Yeah, it's like, I want my goddamn biscuits. And have you ever actually had like an actual biscuit from the UK, like what we call cookies here, like what they call biscuits?
No. Definitely.
You have had one?
Yeah.
You travel abroad all the time.
When I was just in Scotland.
Oh yeah, you were.
I love it. I love it. It's so different from here.
What was the biscuits like?
Very crunchy, but delicious with the tea. You gotta dip them. You have to. But don't dip them for too long or they get soggy and they fall.
And then you ruin your tea. Too much work.
Yeah, it's worth it.
I just want to be a fat American and just go hard into it.
Don't go to the UK.
Okay.
That's the owner of my job. Like every Christmas, because he's from the UK, he gives us like gift baskets with like crackers and biscuits and everything from the UK. And I never realized how delicious they had. This one that's like chocolate orange flavored biscuits, and that combo. Oh my god!
I see the chocolate oranges for Christmas every year, and I just I can't get behind it. I can't get behind the chocolate orange combo.
But have you had it in biscuit form?
No. Again, I've never had a biscuit, so I don't know. Don't know how that would translate.
We gotta change that.
Uncultured.
Swine. All right. So we're gonna go take you to IKEA. We're gonna get biscuits.
Okay.
All on the same trip.
Can it be a Scottish IKEA?
I don't know, because they're Swedish, I think.
I'm sure there's an IKEA in Scotland somewhere.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. We'll try to work
Take the Hogwarts Express to IKEA.
It's funny is the owner of IKEA. Obviously the dude's like a multi-billionaire because he's like, IKEA, but he like refuses to buy a car. Like he just takes public transportation everywhere. So there's like,
because he doesn't want to assemble the car for himself.
I don't know. Maybe. Like, I don't know. But there's like photos of this like older, just like average looking dude sitting on like a subway in like a little jacket, like minding his own business. And it's like, hey, that guy, he owns IKEA. Like, that's him. He's the IKEA guy.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
They're usually, not all billionaires, but most of them are trying to deflect the persona, I guess, a little bit.
Well, and that's why he's a billionaire. He's saving his money. He doesn't need to buy a car.
He's not living that lavish life. He's like, he probably wears like the same thing every single day.
If it's not, he's got replicas of like the same shirt.
Yeah. Like, like just very basic, very like, why am I going to, shops at Walmart. Sure. Or whatever Sweden Walmart is, I don't know.
Is there a Sweden Walmart?
I have no idea. Whatever their version of that is.
Man, I would love to go to a Swedish Walmart. That sounds like a good time.
I don't know. It's crazy how like it differs from country to country. Like a McDonald's.
Oh yeah.
In like Japan, compared to like an American McDonald's. Like,
they got some shit over there.
Yeah, like it's pretty insane.
Any experience with Japanese McDonald's?
No, unfortunately not. British McDonald's, though.
I'm uncultured.
Well, no. British McDonald's are very cool. They have different things on their menu. There was this really cool wrap one time that I had that you could never get in the U.S. 10 out of 10. Very good.
What was in this wrap?
It was just like chicken and like Caesar dressing and,
just a chicken Caesar wrap.
Yeah, but that's not like
I can get that in the U.S. Courtney.
Really? Wait, is that on the menu now?
Not in a McDonald's, but literally go to any restaurant, they have a chicken Caesar
That's
wrap.
the point, though. It's because it's at McDonald's, so it's a good deal.
Oh.
It's cheap.
Well,
that's what you go to McDonald's for. Cheap food.
That's true. We were talking about that the other day. What's like the list of when you're stoned? What's like the munchie? It's like Taco Bell's number one.
Yeah.
And then
McDonald's is when you're drunk.
Yeah.
Top tier food when you're drunk, for sure.
I limit like my McDonald's intake. Like I don't know. It's just
every now and then, just a nasty McDonald's cheeseburger and a Coke just scratch that itch.
If I can avoid it, I'm gonna avoid it. But
some days, like I said, it just is a very specific thing you need to get just to fulfill your little happiness meter in your heart.
Personally, I like the spicy McChickens.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, they slap. Yeah. I'll give you that one. Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. All right. Welcome to Shadows and Sightings, where we talk about paranormal
Let's get
things.
down to business.
And spooky things. And like we said, we have Courtney here today. Courtney is our Native American folklore expert.
Yes.
You say very confidently.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about shapeshifters today, but before we do any of that, we're going to get into a couple of things before that. We're going to talk about something kind of like your cultural background and what your tribe is about. Some of those things to just kind of get a background on who you are as a person.
Sure.
On our little show here.
Yeah, I'd love to. So like Taylor said, my name's Courtney. I'm from the Northern Cheyenne tribe, which is now in southeast Montana. Originally, we started in Minnesota, but with settlers moving, the U.S. expanding, we moved out to southeast Montana. That's where the reservation is now. I've grown up half and half out there, half out here. So I've been really close with my culture, really close with my family. That's where I hear a lot about, cryptids in our tribe. Cryptid is just an indigenous culture in general. So I love to talk about it and bring it to your guys' show too.
Now, are there any major differences between cryptids from your tribe compared to traditional ones that we typically have? Are they pretty much the same, only told in a different way?
There's a lot of similarities, but there's some differences too. The ones that are very specific to my tribe are more so focusing on, if somebody is a bad person or doing bad things, our cryptids / supernatural things will kind of work to fix that. We don't really have a lot that are just out with negative energy, more so like wanting to protect and build.
It's interesting how things are similar, but then there's like very finite differences. You can kind of just look and be like, okay, this is from this tribe, and not just like specifically Native American. Like, you know, if you look at like Hispanic culture or anything, there's always like, you can tell like this is like a Mexican like cryptid or legend versus like, you know, like a Puerto Rican or, you know, like there's subtle differences. So I'm not surprised that you would say that. And in the research about like shapeshifters, which we'll get here in a little bit, I was surprised to see that there's kind of like a split between like shapeshifters are actually seen as good, depending on like how you like approach them from culture to culture or tribe to tribe. And of course, there's always like the negative, like the evil ones too. So we'll definitely get into that. I'm pretty excited, and that's pretty neat.
Yeah. I'm excited to learn. I was telling you guys before, I didn't really do any research on shapeshifters before because I wanted to come into this as just like a fresh perspective where I didn't have any predetermined things, and I wanted to hear it from a first person account kind of deal.
So let's start with Courtney. What, from your experience and like from like what you grew up hearing about and learning about like stories in your tribe, when you hear the term shapeshifter, like what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so the most popular one is kind of a cool like hybrid. It's kind of like a lizard / snake. We call it the meh. Basically, it lives in this pond that's right by our one spring that produces a lot of the water out of the mountain. Very important area. Obviously very important to a lot of people that live around it. This meh is kind of like a protector of that spring because water is very sacred to us. It lives in this first pond, kind of goes underground and lives in the tunnels. It only comes out whenever there is a negative presence or there's someone around that wants to do bad, which is also really good because it's a protector. When it comes out of the water, it can speak in Cheyenne, which is very interesting. It doesn't speak. Crazy. Yeah, it doesn't speak in English. So it'll come out and kind of like coerce like a negative doer or negative energy person into the water.
Can you get, this is like selfish. If you were this, what would you say in Cheyenne?
I mean,
to be like, hey, come in my little spring here, or don't go in my spring.
Yeah. It kind of says stuff like help me, which
like,
is
how would it say it?
Hanesto. That's what it would say. To kind of get somebody to come into the water. But it was never really started as a negative thing. It did used to be a human. Don't know if it was male or female. It's been so long. But now that it has been in the water and in this pond for so long, it rarely changes back to human form. It's kind of just stuck in that lizard, snake kind of thing. But it can come up out of the water. It can walk on its 4 legs, which is also terrifying.
That is pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
No, nobody does. You kind of want to stay away from that pond. There have been some very questionable deaths that have happened in that pond, whether they've been suicides, whether they've been homicides. We don't really know. But there are 4 ponds there. You're allowed to kind of like swim in whichever one you want, but as the natives that live around there, we stay away from the first pond and we swim in the 4th one. That's where we stay.
Interesting. Now, I don't know if we kind of got like a baseline of like, how big is this thing? Is there any idea like what the size of this thing would be? Is it like kind of a small thing or is it? Not
small, okay. No.
Because you said it would come out on like its 4 legs.
Yes.
It seems like it would be like a big iguana or something almost.
Bigger than an iguana. Its head is probably, I'd say, probably the size of like 3 human heads together.
Oh my goodness.
That's terrifying. I don't like that.
I don't like that either.
That scares me.
Is it the face of is it a lizard head or a snake head?
It's more so the snake head.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a less terrifying.
Snake head.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to describe it.
And it can slither around like a snake, or it just walks solely on its legs?
It walks slowly on its legs, and when it swims through the water, it swims kind of like a water snake would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
okay,
a water
moccasin. When it's walking on land, is it kind of like bipedal like a human, or is it kind of walking on 4s?
All 4s.
Okay, that's all right. So, I expect that, and that's like less scary. I don't know what it is about but like if there's ever like a situation, like if a dog would like just looks at you one day and just starts walking like a human, I'd be freaking the fuck out. Like it's unnatural and it just so like
terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. Just like walking like on its hind legs,
just
like
walking down the street.
Yeah,
it could be the dapperest dog of all time too.
Still
just walking
terrifying.
with a top hat and a trench coat.
Still terrifying. Still because it's not.
It's not normal.
It's not normal.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
So you drink from the first spring, swim in the fourth spring, and this thing lives in the first one?
So we get the water from where the spring comes out of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
It lives in the first pond. So it's like the drainage from the spring. Well, not the drainage, I guess, where it's naturally going. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And then there's a second, a third, and a fourth pond. And the fourth one, yes, is where everybody swims. And
interesting.
People fish there too.
Oh. So have you ever seen it?
I have seen its head, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And
now we're getting into it. Let's go.
And I instantly looked away because I didn't want to engage.
You didn't want the smoke.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I just wanted to keep going. I was driving with my mom down to the fourth pond, and I said, "Mom, did you see that?" She said, "Don't talk about it." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Just don't talk about it. Just keep driving." I said, "Okay, I'll just keep driving then." Terrifying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We never talked about it again until now.
Until right now.
Until right now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, until right now. Now it's going to show up at my house.
So that's interesting. So is it pretty common then, Native American culture? I'm not just like your specific tribe. When something like that happens, is it kind of like hush hush, don't address it, kind of like don't talk about it, or does it kind of differ from tribe to tribe?
Yeah, it differs because I obviously don't want to speak, on other tribes.
Sure,
Sure. I always want to, give them the benefit of the doubt, but specifically like for my tribe, if it's something that is, I don't want to say unnatural, but something that's, not human, you kind of just want to let it be and you don't want to get in its way. Because if you are getting in its way or giving some sort of negative energy out to it, that's kind of where it can do something bad to you. But if you go ahead and just let it do its thing, let it live its life, then that's fine.
Live and let live.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm learning so much today.
Well, I mean, those are pretty iconic women too for the show. We just like had like our first, we're always asking like anybody send in like their like reports or anything of like any experiences that you've actually had. So like this is the first time on the show where we've actually had someone talking about an actual experience. So like that's wild and terrifying at the same time.
Outside of myself, having that one thing in Gettysburg but having another outside source come in. Yeah, I agree. It's a pretty cool experience. So you were kind of talking about shapeshifters being like kind of good and evil in a sense. I kind of want to circle back to that. In your tribe, you mentioned before we started recording how certain things shapeshift into a good thing. Like you said, an eagle could be a sign of a healer or something bad. I don't know what a bad thing would be. Do you want to touch on that a little more on what some shapeshifters could turn into or why they might do it?
So the eagle part, eagles are just very sacred to us just in general. Specifically golden eagles to my tribe, but bald eagles are sacred to a lot of different tribes across, all of North America. But eagles in general are kind of like healing spirits. Whenever you see an eagle feather somewhere, you're meant to give it like a great, honest regard. You're meant to be very respectful to it. So somebody that would shapeshift into an eagle could do it to heal somebody that's sick or to give protection to a tribe. If there is like a fire somewhere in the wilderness, it could be a good protection of saying, hey, this eagle's soaring overhead. It's giving us, help, all that kind of stuff.
About that.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is probably kind of a dumb question, but is it like a power that can be learned? Or is it something that just happens by nature that this person was meant to be a healer so they can shapeshift into something that can be a healer? Or like a tribe elder can learn how to shapeshift and become that thing for them? Yeah,
it can be learned, definitely. It's not something that you can just do from like the time that you're a baby.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you go about the route of becoming, a shaman or a medicine woman or something, that kind of puts in your heart that want to help people and that want to heal. So that gets you closer to nature and gets you to be able to connect.
I want to say that I had heard before, and I think it's more of kind of like a coming of age, like a rite of passage type of thing, like within like Native American culture, where they kind of send you out into like the desert or the forest or whatever.
Journey? Is that what you're referring to?
I thought there was like another term for it though.
Vision quest is what some people call it.
Yeah. And like within that, it kind of, you're supposed to, I'm assuming, or see something that will kind of like tell you, what like your journey or your path is, like, what your purpose is kind of thing. And I'm wondering if within that, if somebody was to see like an eagle or something like that, is that kind of like, okay, like I see an eagle, this means that this person's going to be like a healer? Or is it more or less like it kind of depends on like the tribes? Because, I'm sure certain animals have like certain, more like connotations within like certain tribes. Like if you see like a bear, it's like, I'm wondering if like the similarities like kind of come into play there. Like you said, I read that anybody was just kind of conflicting, like anybody can learn it, like how to shapeshift. It's like thinking it's like a certain path that you have to take first before that can actually happen. So like anybody can become a shapeshifter, but like there has to be certain things kind of in place before that actually happens. But I also didn't see like what specific. I didn't see like what that was like specific to like what it was kind of like a general thing. I was like, that seems kind of vague. And like there was
your
like
theory is that you have to be on a vision quest to see something to become a shapeshifter.
Well, not necessarily like you have to be on a vision quest. I think
that's something that like you need to do before you can become it.
Based off of what this was saying. Okay. But like which was just kind of curious as to like I wanted to see like where
a firsthand account of
yeah, definitely. That is a very important part of, you know, people's lives that want to go down that route. You mentioned like bears. Like bears are protectors in a lot of tribes because they're big, because they're strong, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times, you know, we see, at least with my tribe, men go on vision quests more than women do. Not because women can't, but, you know, women usually will see things a lot easier without going out into the wilderness. They kind of have more of a connection to nature and everything. So they don't necessarily have to go out. They may see something just walking down the street. They may see something, you know, in their house. They may see like a vision of an eagle or an owl or a bear. But a lot of the times the men that do go out and go on the vision quest will see something, and that'll kind of be their guide, and they'll be able to say, oh, I can connect with that animal and become them.
Do you have any plans of doing a vision quest?
At some point.
Really?
Yeah. I kind of spend a lot of my time outside, so I feel like I've kind of done mini ones, but I've never gone out by myself. It's kind of scary to do that out there.
I can imagine.
Yeah. There's a lot of mountain lions. There's a lot of bears.
It's scary for a lot of reasons.
The snake.
The shapeshifters.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So
and the Wendigo walking around.
Oh yeah, the Wendigo. So maybe at some point.
Yeah.
We'll see.
You had just gone out there just recently and just watching your Instagram stuff of like the tribe, like the dancing and all that stuff. That stuff is just fascinating to me. I don't know if you want to talk any more on that. It doesn't really have anything to do with shapeshifters, but if you want to. Yeah. We don't get a chance to really talk culture on this show very often. We're not cultured people by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you are. You say more than me because you grew up in a multicultural household. I did not. But I think it's cool to have that kind of experience when you have the chance to ask it. Like, what does that symbolize in your tribe? To like manifest a thing, or is it just like a party? Or
yeah, the powwow that I was at recently was the Labor Day powwow. And it was just a celebration, you know, it's just a get together of our tribe, and other tribes can come to it too. We do have, I guess, competitions with the dancing. Yeah. So you get to win money, which is really neat. Nice. Also. Yeah. And there's kids as young as, you know, like 2 that are out there doing it.
That's awesome.
And then we have the golden age, which are the elders that come out and dance too.
I bet they just throw it down.
Oh, they do so great.
Yeah,
they crush it.
Yeah,
they are
like, let me show you how it's done.
And the golden age, what is like the age of that? Is like senior citizen kind of like from like 65 and plus, or like 55 and plus or something?
Yeah, there's not like a set number on it. I guess as soon as you feel elderly. Yeah, exactly. And then you just go out there and just throw it down and
just start twerking on the dance floor.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? But their prizes are always the most amount of money. It's great.
Bet they are.
It's great.
They've earned it.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's just a big party. There's always a lot of good food. Lots of prizes. There's a lot of initiations for people that are just starting to dance. There was one for a little guy who was 3. I forget what his name was, but he was so great. He went out there and danced all by himself. He crushed it.
Nice.
He did great.
Good for him.
Yeah. And then there was another guy. He had been away from the tribe for about 15 years. He was, I think, in his 40s, I want to say. And he had an initiation because it was his first time dancing since he had left. So that was really great to see too, just the reconnecting piece of it as well.
Again, I'm just learning so much. I love this shit, man.
No, but
I'm glad we started this podcast.
No, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. There's so many platforms like this where we can kind of like, because that's how it should be. We should be like educating and informing people of like, you know, like not to be so narrow-minded about shit.
Oh, yeah.
So any time that we have the ability to kind of like share that experience, I think it's like, it's awesome. Yeah. We were talking about like that show Dark Winds. Mm-hmm. That's what I was telling you last week. I was sitting there watching it though, and I mean, I'm assuming that they probably like got with like actual tribes because they're speaking like I think actual like Navajo. I don't know what the dialect is. Is it like Navajo? Is that like
yeah?
Is that
each tribe kind of has their own different?
Yeah, there's different languages for every tribe. There's a lot of similarities too.
Yeah.
Because there's like where there's Northern Cheyenne and there's Southern Cheyenne.
Gotcha.
We speak pretty much the same language, but a lot of words are different for us.
Yep. That's how it is like with like Spanish like
I was gonna
culture
say, it's
too.
probably like how Spanish people speak Spanish compared to how Mexican people speak Spanish.
So yeah, it's like the weirdest thing. I can hear like someone from like Puerto Rico, and they're like my grandpa when he talks. It sounds that's Spanish. There's like mannerisms and there's things in the dialect that's clearly Puerto Rican,
right?
Versus like what Mexicans like talking. You can just tell like. But like in the show though, I was sitting there wondering. I was like, how accurate is this? Number one, if I'm going to spend money on like a show and direct it, and like especially like one that's like so in steeped in like actual Native American culture, I want to make sure that I have.
I'm sure they have some experts.
The real, exactly.
Some consultations with people.
Yeah, but there was a ritual. I'm not sure if this was specific to like the Navajo tribe or if it's across the board. It was the little girl, again, like another like coming of age type of thing. They had her running out in the desert. Like she had to like run to like a specific like waypoint or whatever. And then she had to make like a cornmeal, like tortilla thing and was like grinding up corn or whatever. And like, it made me wonder, I was like, when, us watching this, is this something that's like actually legit or is this like, because unfortunately like, older films and stuff, like a lot of it was like whitewashed or whatever and it was like completely inaccurate, you know, and it's like kind of a shame that way. I think in this modern day and age, like it seems more accurate.
I'd believe that's accurate. Yeah.
You need to watch. That's just kind of going.
You need to watch it. It's so good. Dude. Like it's like I got sucked into it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like crazy. And
I was gonna say, I feel like the representation for Native Americans. I can't speak for you, obviously, but I feel like it's gotten at least a little more accurate with modern media.
Definitely.
I remember Assassin's Creed 3 coming out, and like that was pretty monumental in terms of having a Native American protagonist, and like one of the first things that I can remember. Of course, you probably would know better than me because modern media, but
Pocahontas.
But to actually sit down and be able to more or less not really learn the language of, I forget what tribe Connor was from in Assassin's Creed, but you could read it in its own dialect and they had all the same native speaking people recording the lines and then you could translate it if you wanted to, but it's like, this is an actual representation of how these people lived and not like that movie Prey. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
Not yet, but I've seen I think the trailer for it.
It's so good. But I think it's getting more accurate. So like you were saying, I feel like in this modern era that we're in, the representation at least is
because it's authentic.
Yeah.
Why, if I had the means, and not just like Native American culture, like any sort of like, Japanese, Hispanic, whatever it is, I'm going to make a show. Like if I want an authentic experience, I'm going to like actually bring in the people and invite them in and be like, hey, we're making a show, we're writing a book, we're making a play. We really want this to be as close as possible to like, the actuality of what it is.
A lot of times the truth is better than fiction anyway. So,
Hands down, 100%.
So I guess since we're a paranormal show, we should start talking about spooky things again. So you think that you've seen it?
Yes.
When you were driving through, my question would be more, since you have seen it, you believe that this thing is real, correct?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you think it was be more of a real thing or is it more of, we were talking in a couple episodes ago, like the Snallygaster of Western Maryland, how that kind of became a thing where people kind of make this thing up as a deterrent. Would you say that this was kind of maybe made into a deterrent in some way, or that it was just created, like it's already existing, so people just found it and were like, oh, we're not fucking with that thing? Probably
a little bit of the both. I mean, it is definitely a deterrent because I've never swam in that pond and I don't want to. But I don't know. It's hard because I'm a very factual person and I am very much like, if I don't see it, if it's, not proven to be real, I'm like, but I've seen something. I know it was something. I don't know if because I had that pre-existing thing in my mind of this is what's in that first pond, so I'm seeing it. But I don't know. I've always been very focused on, we don't know what's in the wilderness. We don't know everything that's out there. We don't know everything that's in the ocean. Not that this is in the ocean, but there are a lot of things in the world that we don't understand.
Absolutely.
And, I like to think that there are a lot of protectors out there trying to keep nature safe and keep things going on the right course. So if that means that I saw it in the first pond and I know to protect that spring and make sure there's no trash, there's no bad people down there doing bad things, then that's what I'm going to believe.
So you kind of took this as more like a sign for yourself in a way.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
So we talked about good side of shapeshifting. What would be kind of the bad side of shapeshifting?
Bad would be if someone, in their human form had some sort of trauma in their life, whether it's, they watched a loved one pass away or something bad happened to them, they were abused or, something terrible like that. And then they take that and they make it negative in their mind. They don't work through it. And then they use that to then hurt other people. That would be kind of the bad side of shapeshifting.
So you said that the good side, you could turn into an eagle or something that has a positive connotation within your tribe. Is there an animal that they could shapeshift into that would be a negative connotation? Or is it kind of like the snake lizard kind of thing?
I mean, it more so is based off of the person. It's not so the animal because, all animals really in my tribe at least are all sacred. They all have a purpose, whether it's a wolf or a coyote or a mountain lion, they all have a purpose in life. So I don't want to say that a certain animal is bad and then, all the others are good. I think it really comes down to what that shapeshifter does with their life.
I was going to say, maybe that's where some cryptids come from.
Maybe.
Because they just kind of shapeshift into something that is not a part of the natural world.
Well, remember, that was one of when we did the episode on the Wendigo. Yeah, remember, it was kind of like what you were talking about, how people have trauma, and it's more or less like a metaphor for if we don't process through that trauma, we essentially become that trauma. And, like the whole thing about hurt people, they kind of carry that with you, And one of the things about the Wendigos was it was kind of like a sign for greed. So, if you're somebody who is more prone to kind of engaging in greed, then that's only going to multiply more negative shit in your life. You can't really be positive with that. Yeah. So that's where the whole thing, that was one of the theories of the Wendigo. So that's not surprising. I kind of see the correlation. Before we start recording, Courtney, you brought up kind of a mythical creature called the Deer Woman or Deer Lady. What is that? How does that correlate into shapeshifting?
Yeah, so she's probably one of the most well-known shapeshifters, at least in, the Plains tribes out in the Midwest. She's not very prevalent in my culture, but in a lot of the, closer tribes she is. So she has a lot of different backstories, but the most popular one is she was a young girl that was taken away to a Native American boarding school back in, the 1800s or early 1900s. And she was forced to have her hair cut, which is very, traumatic for us as Native Americans. She also had a very close friend, a young boy, that had been abused by the priest that was there, and then he was later murdered by that priest. So she then took that trauma, the trauma of her hair getting cut, the trauma of seeing that happen, the trauma of losing her friend, and she then used that to kind of fight the negative energy that certain men give out. So her first, murder would be that priest. She would shapeshift into a deer. Sometimes she only changes the bottom half of her body to where you can only see the deer legs and the hooves. And she went after that priest, killed him, to right, what had happened to her friend. Now she is kind of seen as a hero in shapeshifter culture, where she goes after men that are doing bad things, men that are abusing women, men that are murdering women, and she takes care of them in more or less words. But she takes her trauma and she does it for a good thing, in my mind, at least.
I would agree. Seeing a deer lady just come by and just wreck somebody for being a shitty person. That's my headcanon. I like that.
They had it coming.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to be a dick. Here comes the deer lady. She's coming to clap them cheeks, man. She's getting you. She's coming to get you.
I mean, it's interesting that, again, turning trauma into a positive thing. In this case, it's more of, I won't say a vigilante, but kind of more of
a vengeance almost. Yeah. But vengeance is different to everybody else. There's Batman. He's vengeance. He does good.
It's true. Yeah.
Anti-hero.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Sometimes you got to right certain wrongs, but
sometimes you got to turn into a half deer hybrid and just
fuck shit up. Reading about the deer woman though, that was kind of the thing, the driving force, where it was kind of the trauma that it was talking about was men who raped women or whatever, and then this kind of manifest out of that. I didn't know that it was more of that vigilante perspective of it. That's pretty cool.
Definitely doing good.
And I wonder how it's different from like tribe to tribe. Like, from your experience, is it similar in the fact like it's pretty much like across the tribes, like they all know what it is, but it might like differ a little bit?
Yeah, that's pretty much, spot on. Because some tribes have seen her, known of her for a long time before the boarding schools were a thing.
Yeah.
So, maybe one tribe only started talking about her from that story. Maybe other tribes knew her as, a vigilante or sorts, from somebody that was within the tribe, a man that had done something wrong, to a woman or to a child, who knows. But it all kind of comes together with the same kind of thought process that she has. She's out there doing good, protecting those that can't protect themselves.
Which makes sense when we were talking about like shapeshifters, like, yeah, they can kind of like take that form of a protector. And one of the things was like, it's like protect the community. In this case,
sure.
Like kind of representing like, like the voices of like women, like they're put in like those kinds of tough situations like that. So that's pretty neat.
I was going to say she's also the leader of the little people. Do you know anything about the little people?
I do. Oh, another one that I have seen, but tried.
So now you didn't tell us this.
No,
this is new information.
Yeah, I don't like to talk about it because
you don't have to if you don't want to.
No. I can talk about it, but it's hard to explain. So the little people are basically the protectors of the forest. This is, coming from my tribe.
Mm-hmm.
They are seen as kind of short people that are about like 2 feet tall, very hairy, kind of, I guess, like a gnome is like what you had said before. But they live in the trees and they protect the land. Now, when you see one, if you see one, you kind of want to avert your eyes as quickly as possible because they're seen as sacred. They're seen as protectors. You kind of don't want to acknowledge that you saw one to somebody else that like lives out there. I'm fine talking about it here because you guys aren't going to go out to my tribe, I would expect, anytime soon.
I mean, I have my plane ticket booked. I don't know.
Surprise, we're all going.
Yeah.
But with them, if you see them, you're meant to give them some sort of an offering. So whether that's a piece of food, whether that's water, whether that's tobacco, you just leave something out for them. And that's kind of you saying, I respect you. This is what I give to you. Thank you for protecting the land. That's at least in my tribe.
I would love to be one of the little people that gets tobacco as a gift.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Definitely. But they're pretty cool. They're, like I said, just protectors of nature.
What was your experience with it? If you don't mind talking about it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was out, I think, with my cousin. I think that's who I was with. It was a long time ago.
If you're a member of Courtney's tribe, don't listen to this next part. You're not allowed to know.
No, you're not allowed to. But I was out with my cousin and we were driving around just through the hills and we got out, we wanted to look, there were some pretty cool rocks that were around. So we thought,
rocks.
Yeah, we love rocks. So we got out, we were looking at these rocks. And I remember there was a turn in the road up further. Now, granted, this is not like a paved road. This is a dirt road because we're in the middle of nowhere. No cell service either, obviously, to make it even more spooky. So
it was also dark and rainy, and it was also Halloween.
Absolutely, all the above. No, it was very sunny that day. Don't let him fool you. But I remember looking up. I had this little rock in my hand, and I looked up, and out of my peripheral, I could just see something like standing right beside the turn in the road. And I thought, what the heck is that? So I look back at my cousin, and I ask her, I'm like, did you see that? She's like, what are you talking about? And I look over again, and I see a foot like go. And I asked her, did you see that? She said, what are you talking about? I said, oh, well, maybe I'll ask my mom. So I went home, asked my mom. She said, yeah, that was a little person. Did you leave something for them? I said, no. She said, you need to go back out there right now. So she gave me a cigarette. She said, here you go. Go give this to them. So I went back to where we were. I laid it down and I said, okay, now we're leaving. Now we go.
We're on even terms now.
Yeah, now we're good. I gave he or she an offering and now we're all set.
That's so cool. I can't believe you had like 2 separate experiences of 2 very popular things to happen to you. That's pretty impressive.
It is pretty cool. Hey, I'm all about it. If they like me, that's great. Then they can, give me good fortune. It's fine.
Feel comfortable showing themselves to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I just won't do anything bad. Then we'll be fine.
Yeah. Then the deer lady would have to come and get you.
Yeah, I don't want that.
It's interesting. Like hearing like your account of that. In Panama, it's not just Panama, but like South America. The little people, the guardians of the forest, they're called El Duende. And the story that I got growing up was that I had an uncle that was like gambling away the money, like that he was supposed to be bringing home for the family. So he's coming home one night and he's minding his own business, and he felt a tug on both of his hands. And he looks down, and there's these two little hairy people kind of just staring up at him. And like he like freaked the fuck out, came home. Yeah, he came running home.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then my mom, of course, like she was a little girl when she was, this happened or whatever, because it was like, her cousin or something like that. Yeah, dude swears up and down. It was like, yeah, there were these two little dwarf-like people like grabbing my hands or whatever, and I never gambled again, So it's kind of like
that would fix me.
Yeah, it's just like crazy, like how similar, like the culture, culturally around the world, there's like a lot of like similarities and stuff like that. So yeah, hearing your story, I was like, man, that reminds me exactly of what like mom told me growing up. It's freaking wild.
That's so cool. I had no idea that there were other, areas of the world that had a similar story.
Yeah, yep. It's like as soon as you said like the little people and like started talking about it, I was like, hey, those are the El Duende.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I grew up listening to, those guys. So
it's like you said, it's like that's crazy how two different cultures have a similar experience and what they call it's not called the same thing. Obviously,
should do an episode on the little people. My gosh,
I guess we're gonna have to. I didn't even know they were a thing until today. So
well, you're learning so many different things.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's like a lecture, man. I'm here for it. A lecture that I paid to get into, I should say, not one that just started happening.
I'm curious. Have you whether within your tribe or other like from other tribes, have you ever heard of the Moon-Eyed people?
It sounds familiar.
That's more common around here, like Appalachia, like the Moon-Eyed people. And the way that I understand it is it was like a race of like almost like Hobbit like Native American tribes or whatever way back when, and they called them like the Moon-Eyed people because they had they could like round eyes or whatever, but they could see at night, and they had like really pale skin. And you can like look up, there's like reports of when they first, like Lewis and Clark, like when they first like came over here and started settling the country, and they were talking to like other like native tribes or whatever. There was like an internal war amongst like the tribes, and the reason they're not here today is because like other tribes like kind of like wiped them out or something like that. So I was kind of curious. At first when you said little people, I was trying to think, I was like, what was that thing I heard about? I was like the Moon-Eyed people, and I was wondering if that was like the same thing or something different.
I wonder if they like have gone into like the caves.
Well, that's what it was. They said that they lived underground, and
that does sound familiar.
Yeah. They lived underground, and they would come out, out of like, the caves, and I guess they either retreated back. That's why we don't really see them nowadays, because they retreated back, or that they were kind of wiped out because I think they were warring with like another tribe at the time.
You said that sounds familiar?
Yeah, it sounds like a story I heard, but I
was going to say, do you have like any stories of those kinds of things existing, of cave dwelling peoples or something along those lines?
Yeah, there's something like I do remember. I read it in a book actually from, one of my tribe's like elders. They had wrote it, but I can't remember exactly what they were called, but there was something like that they were like a cave dweller, I guess is the easiest term to use. But yeah, you don't really see them anymore because they were more so on the East Coast, and with all the warring and everything that happened, everybody getting pushed out west, they kind of disappeared.
Interesting.
Comes from the Cherokee tradition. Yeah, so they were a group of short-bearded, white-skinned people who lived in Appalachia until the Cherokee essentially like expelled them out. And they were called the Moon-Eyed people because they saw poorly during the day. So like there was something specific about this tribe that they were better suited for like seeing at night. But when they came out during the day, like they couldn't. At first, when you were saying like little people, I was like, that's what was coming to my mind. But I was like, is that what it is? But so it's. Yeah, we're just scratching the surface.
So I do kind of want to ask, outside of the fact of shapeshifters and stuff like that, I know your tribe is probably very spiritual.
Yes. Yeah.
What is the thought or the general perspective of the paranormal, like ghosts and things like that within your tribe? Is that a thing that is believed in or not? Just kind of discarded?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's more so not like a ghost, but just like spirits in general, because everyone is so connected to nature. There's spirits in trees, there's spirits in animals, or spirits in humans. So when you die, you don't just disappear. Like you just become, part of the land, or, you become a star, or you become a tree. Like there's different things that happen. So yeah, I mean, hands down, like we always believe in stuff like that. There's nothing that is unexpected, I would say, or unbelievable.
So there's nothing paranormal.
Right, because it's just like, it's just normal.
It's the norm.
Yeah. Right, yeah. There isn't really something that's like oh, this is out of, the view of somebody.
So a spirit could just kind of manifest itself as into anything, or just as there's a tree, so there's a person. Like, I don't want to boil it down to that essentially of like, oh, this used to be a person, or is that kind of the general?
Yeah, pretty much. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah. We have a strong belief that our ancestors are always around us all the time, whether they're in the form of a tree, whether they're, in the form of the breeze or the stars you see at night or whatever. Everybody is always still here, and they're here to either help you, guide you, protect you. That's just the belief.
That's so cool. I like that. I like that a lot more than just traditional. Just, yep, you're dead, and then that's it.
And just nothingness.
Just in the ground. Yeah. That's all.
I guess it always depends on your personal spiritual beliefs of what happens to you in the afterlife, but
yeah, gives you purpose.
Yeah. So no such thing as like a typical ghost in your tribe.
Correct. Yeah. It's just the spirits are just everywhere around. Yeah.
Do you believe in ghosts though?
I do.
Like a traditional version of ghosts?
Yeah, I do, because, there's so many other religions and beliefs in the world that somewhere there is a ghost to somebody, or there are multiple ghosts to somebody. That's something else that, we strongly believe in. We know that we are different from a lot of other people, and we have different beliefs, and other people have different beliefs. So everybody just believes in their own thing.
Wow, what a concept.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah. Imagine living your life the way you want to live it and leaving everybody else alone.
If only.
If only.
If only.
Not in this day and age.
Yeah, for real.
So within like your tribe, it's a very spiritual, do you have anything to offer on?
It just made me think like a job interview.
No,
what do you have to offer?
No.
It is an interview.
No, like how shamans, like if there's like some sort of like evil, like force or negative energy, well, maybe like a medicine man, like how would they go about like dispelling like those evil spirits, like within like your tribe?
Yeah, it kind of depends on what it is, because pre-colonialism, I would say, you would kind of see what the problem is and kind of treat it based off of what you have. Obviously, we believe in natural medicine, like it's obviously how we always were. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of things with cedar. We do a lot of things with sage. Cedar is more important to my tribe. A lot of tribes use a lot of sage, but we use both. Cedar is seen as like a cleansing, smoke and a cleansing plant. So that's always the most important thing. I have a ton of cedar at my house, and I always just burn it and, fill up the house, and kind of just gets away negative energy, gets away negative thoughts. Even if I'm just having a bad day, kind of just pushes it away.
Sure.
Not that I'm a shaman or, anything like that. So that's kind of, the biggest thing that they would go after, just like the natural medicine. When all of the post-colonialism, can't say that word, things came in, there was not really a way to effectively beat those kind of things. Guns. Like, what do you do about guns? Smallpox, yeah. The flu, like all of that stuff.
Common colds.
Alcohol, all of that. So trying to fight that kind of stuff with natural medicine doesn't really work, unfortunately. So that would kind of be where a shaman or a medicine man would go to, something of the earth, something natural, to combat really anything like that. If it would work, who knows? Most likely not with modern technologies, unfortunately.
No, I was just curious. Like, it's just like to hear like a firsthand account of like how in Hispanic culture, like Panama, they're called curanderos, is what they are, and which is like what a shaman is, to like a tribe, and just some of the methods that they use is
probably
like,
outlandish.
Oh my god, just like off the wall, like, and just like hearing like my grandma and like stuff talk about it. I'm like, and like there's a part where it's like you're skeptical about it. You also like kind of pay respect to the culture itself, and just like it's fascinating to see like how they like kind of handle like the situations, So yeah, I was just kind of curious just to see like how like what are the similarities are, and
right.
There's a lot of stuff with like music too. I don't know if that's like similar to like what you're talking about as well, but we like see the drum as a sacred object. So whether it's, playing just like drum beats or, singing, that also kind of helps to heal. So that's something else that we kind of gravitate to also.
I've heard some things about some like, like the drum. I'm not sure if they see it as like sacred as like what a tribe would see it, but like I know that it's like, like music is definitely like a big thing that kind of comes
like
up.
Vibrational healing kind of things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody, do you have like a medicine person or shaman in your tribe?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's multiple, and they're all at kind of different levels, I would say. We have someone that kind of protects, I guess it's kind of like a headdress that is very sacred to us. So there's somebody that monitors that, and they're like the head shaman or medicine man. And then there's other people that have the capabilities to heal, and, you know, that are seen as kind of like, you know, healing women or healing men. There's something else that we do. We go into sweat lodges and kind of like just burn steam. Yep, a cleanse. We'll throw cedar on the rocks. We'll throw steam on the rocks and kind of just breathe that in. And there's always.
Have you done that?
I have, actually.
Man, that's got to be probably
it's
the incredible experience.
It's a great experience. I highly recommend to anybody that has never done it should do it, because you come out of there like a different person. I've done it twice now, I believe. But it is very draining. It takes a lot out of you, because you're in there and you're sweating and it's hot and you're leaning right over those rocks and you're trying to breathe, and sometimes you can't breathe, but you just endure, you just deal with it. So that kind of opens your mind and gets you to kind of think a little differently afterwards too. It does a great thing for the sinuses too.
I can imagine. Bottle that and sell it, man.
Did you ever see, came out probably a couple of years ago, because like, as we're like kind of shifting into like popular culture and stuff like that.
I just had one more thing I think I wanted to ask. I don't know if we kind of touched on it or not, but like negative. So you were asking about negative energy, right? In a way of like,
in the sense of like how like a medicine man or like a shaman would like, you know, counteract or combat like negative energy. Yeah.
I guess I was just kind of snowballing on that. Like, how would they kind of determine, or what would a negative energy or spirit manifest itself maybe as, or just kind of, can they possess people in a way, or is it just like a...
Yeah, there's been like instances where that has happened.
Like the Wendigo, we talked about that. That's essentially like an evil spirit of hunger and stuff like that as being what possessed and corrupted this person into becoming the Wendigo. But I didn't know if it's just a general, like a negative spirit could inhabit somebody, and then you have to go to the medicine person and then do like a cleanse like that. If that's something that is a thing in the tribe, or if it's just like a... Yeah,
yes and no. It's kind of more so like the person themselves, like if they have those negative thoughts, if they have, you know, a lot of bad things that happen to them.
So it's more self-aware.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, if somebody is trying to, you know, become sober, like that's a big thing too. You know, we are very susceptible to alcoholism, to drug addiction. That's like a common knowledge thing. So a lot of the times people that are becoming addicts will go and kind of do a cleanse or a sweat and kind of try and get that out. But it sometimes... So it's not
necessarily from a spiritual perspective of a negative spirit coming in and inhabiting. It's more of a,
right,
I know that I have these problems, so I'm going to go get a spiritual guidance to help fix it.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, it's more so like that. Now, in the past, I don't know if it was seen the same way. Obviously, when alcohol was just introduced to Native American cultures, right, it probably was seen as, you know, this is a negative spirit. This is a bad thing that's taking over this human. I need to help them get it out. Yeah. But now that we've, you know, moved through the years and we understand what alcohol does to the body, does to the mind, it's a little more, like you said, self-aware.
All right, pop culture, Nick. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, no. I mean,
come on, Nick, you had something?
Well, no, because you were talking about like the sweat lodges and stuff like that. I don't know if you ever saw...
It's like, where's this going?
No, like, did you ever... Well, no, how you talking about like how like of a healing experience it is? Did you ever see The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yes, that is such a good movie.
If you haven't seen it, dude, it's dope.
I have not.
Oh my gosh, you're missing out.
It's got Tom Hardy.
I don't need all the judgment.
It's got Tom Hardy in it.
The shaman get all this negative energy out of here. There's like, so much negative energy coming my way right now.
So like, just long story short, he's out and he...
I mean, I know that he won an Oscar for that role. That's
the first movie after all his films that he's like been in. That's the one that got him like...
He's okay. Hot take. Man, he didn't really deserve one until then.
Oh my gosh. Unpopular opinion.
Leonardo who? I've never heard of the guy.
Da Vinci? I thought he was a painter.
Oh no.
Yeah, but like basically he are you gonna watch it? I'm gonna ruin it for you because you should have watched it by now.
It's been out for like 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
At least.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
So like he
spoiler alert for the movie Revenant.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, I'm sorry, but you know that's your choice. He's like a Civil War soldier, something like that, and he has a Native American son. So like he, for whatever reason,
literally the premise of Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Not so
sort
good
of
looking
like
of an Oscar now.
Sort of similar. Yeah. So like it's like he has like a biracial son. He meets like his wife, but his son gets like killed by Tom Hardy. Which like his character is like a piece of shit.
Definitely.
He's just a freaking asshole. Like because he's like a trapper and stuff. It's kind of like a vengeance story because Leonardo he gets like fucked up by a grizzly bear. Like this bear, like he's out with his son, and this bear just shows up and like wrecks his shit. And he can't walk or anything. In the film, medicine man or shaman finds him, builds like this like sweat lodge, and like throws him in there and just like leaves him in there for like I don't even know how long.
I think it's like days.
Yeah, it's like and he's like in there tripping balls and stuff like that because he's like sweating, losing his mind, and then he finally like emerges from it and like he's like healed essentially. So like, I don't know how like
is that a thing that happens in the sweat lodge? Like hallucinations and stuff and stuff.
It can happen.
Did you hallucinate?
I think maybe. I don't know because
I don't know if it was real or not, man.
I don't know. I don't know if it was because it's in the dark. It's like completely
sensory
dark.
deprivation.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no light in there at all. The only time that there's light is whenever the like rock carrier brings in another rock, because we use lava rocks is basically the rocks that we use inside of there to get the steam going. But whenever somebody opens the door to bring the rock in, that's the only light that you see. So you can't see anything. You can't really smell anything because the steam's everywhere. You can just feel the heat. I thought I saw a white horse like running through the sweat lodge. I don't know. I think it might have just been my brain just not
that sounds like
connecting.
Hallucination?
Yeah,
there you go.
There you go.
I was overcomplicating it like you and your Asiatic families.
That's the thing, right? That's the term. Like
Asian. It's just Asian. It's never going to change.
Okay, no, like Asian.
Well,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a hallucination if I've ever heard one.
yeah, I guess it would be a hallucination, but I don't know. I
feel like they would have just wrecked the lodge you were in if it was.
Well, it was a tiny horse. It wasn't like a full size horse. My gosh, no, it was like a little one. It was just like running around. I don't know. So maybe I just imagined it, and maybe it was from the sweat. I don't know. But yeah, I have heard of other people having not the same vision, quote unquote, but seeing things in there as well.
Sure.
So I could definitely believe that that's a common thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like sensory deprivation, like you're in there pitch dark, you're sweating like crazy. Yeah, like I would imagine like that.
A lot of things your brain's just playing tricks on you and stuff. I got nothing. I told you I came into this with blind. I was here to learn.
It's a little different, like, because with Shapeshifters,
we can broaden it to just like things that you've seen in like Native American culture and pop culture that has like maybe resonated or harkens back to what we're talking about.
I've got a cringy pop culture reference.
Oh, I bet you do.
Go for it.
Twilight.
I like how we both just quietly. I was like, I've never seen Twilight either.
I'll be honest with you. I literally just saw Brittany and I because Brittany was like, "Let's watch Twilight."
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. It was me. And I've only seen like the first one.
Oh, so you don't even see where they're shapeshifters.
But that was not
Jacob.
Robert Pattinson.
No, the other one.
Jacob.
Yeah,
Taylor Lautner.
The Lautner. Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's okay. That's so I didn't even know that's like what was like.
Spoilered.
Okay, do you go by all means? Like,
no, in I guess the second movie and film, his tribe.
Second movie and film?
Movie and book? I don't know why I said that.
Yeah.
There we go. Second movie and book. I forget the name of his tribe, but they are shapeshifters into wolves.
Okay.
And
so it wasn't actually a werewolf then?
No.
Oh, I thought I was under the impression they were werewolves.
I mean, I guess like the vampires see them as werewolves because that's what they think they are because they don't understand, but they're actually just wolves because they run around on all four legs and they look like wolves. It's not the traditional like lichen werewolf that you would think of. Wolves, and they are shapeshifters that go back from human to wolf and they protect the tribe. That's kind of what they're made for.
What else? Anything else? You don't have anything, Nick?
Pop culture? I mean,
I'm sure there's like a lot of like Harry Potter probably talks about shapeshifters all the time.
So many,
if I had
like,
to guess.
There's so many like if you look up pop culture like Native American,
polymorph potion is literally just shapeshifting in a jar.
Polymorph? You mean polyjuice?
Polyjuice, yeah. What I'm polymorphing is polyjuice.
Oh, okay.
Same thing, right?
I don't know. Your Harry Potter fan listeners are going to be very upset.
Yeah, you just pissed off a lot of people.
Well, read Lord of the Rings, you nerds.
I mean, Dear Lady, well, yes, correct. Dear Lady was in Reservation Dogs, the show on Hulu. It's a tribe in Oklahoma. I forget the name of the tribe, but it's about these like 4 kids that are trying to get off of the reservation and go, make something of themselves, basically. It's a very good show. Highly recommend. I think there's like 3 seasons, I want to say.
Okay.
And they're up for 3 or 4 Emmys for it, finally.
Nice.
They deserve it. But it's very, very good. Lily Gladstone's in it, the woman that starred in Killers of the Flower Moon, which is also another very good.
I've been dying to see that movie, and I've not seen it yet.
It's so good. Highly recommend.
Again, we should have just had a big old watch party of all these things before we started talking about them.
Leonardo DiCaprio's in that, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, so he's in that one too.
Yeah.
The guy that was the thing we just watched about the Skinwalker, or the Wendigo, the brother of the cop.
Oh, okay.
He's in it. I think he's a cop in that one too. Actually,
Imagine that.
Yeah. I've been meaning it. It's kind of like actually like a fucked up story. Like. Then it's because it's a true story. It's like based off of like actual events, but like I kind of like read into it and I was like, holy shit, it was like kind of really dark, but it's kind of sad.
It is.
You were saying Reservation
Dogs.
Reservation Dogs.
Yep.
Okay. So she shows up in that.
Yes, she does. And that's where they kind of do a whole episode on her backstory and kind of tell, how she was in the boarding school, tell about, her friend that got killed and everything, and kind of shows her vengeance and follows her story.
Gotcha. So she's a pretty accurate representation of the traditional.
Yeah.
We talk about Fallout 76 on this fucking show a lot. And they just...
Nothing yet. No, there's nothing. At least as far as I know, like I haven't been playing the game. I hadn't really seen any like native. I mean, other than like some of the other cryptids that may show up in like other like tribes.
Either way, Fallout 76 takes these cryptids or legends or whatever and kind of bastardizes them in a way to kind of fit the game narrative. So for a show to actually make it a true representation is kind of refreshing.
Yeah, there hasn't really been. I'm surprised actually. There hasn't been any like Native American. Not to say that...
I was going to say, they may not want to step on too many...
Well, no, Fallout did have, like, Native Americans, like, portrayed in the game a couple in Vegas. There was, like, a post-apocalyptic tribe that are still, even after the war and everything, that are still holding true to their values and stuff like that. Yeah, but as far as, like, pop culture goes, there's, like... when you think of, like, Native American, like, pop culture, that is such a broad topic. Like, it's in everything, Like, I was saying the show that we were talking about, it's called another good show, Dark Winds. If you get a chance, I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. It takes place in the 70s, so there's like a lot of, it really captures like the whole political tension that's there between like, like the reservation and like, like the politics for like police force. So like the Navajo police, like conflicting or, kind of bumping heads with like the FBI. And they kind of talked about that where it's like, if, like a white girl, somebody else goes missing, like around here, you guys jump all over it. But, if I report like a missing, like Native woman, like I don't get a response back for like 3 weeks, 3 months at a time, I have to jump through hoops, so like it kind of like plays that angle in like the show. They're solving cases and murders and stuff like that. They kind of seem supernatural a little bit. So they're kind of like, it makes you wonder like, okay, wait, what is this or whatever. There's like some weird things that happen. There's like a witch on the reservation and like people are kind of like stay away from that woman. She kind of shows up from here and there and there's like really freaky stuff going on, So but it doesn't like actually like ever explain it though. It kind of leaves it and like you gotta like kind of guess.
Right.
So yeah, it's another good show if you ever get a chance.
So I got one more thing to bring up. Just as we're talking about pop culture a little bit, and this kind of ties into it. You've seen Poltergeist, I'm assuming, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The theory of things being built on Native American burial grounds. We got to talk about this. It's in like every horror movie. It's like a classic horror movie trope.
That's true.
Is there anything in your experience?
If you desecrate really any kind of sacred land,
This is true.
It doesn't have to be necessarily a burial ground. For example, like the Black Hills in South Dakota. Like that is a very sacred area. And when...
Is that sacred to your tribe or just in general? Is that like common knowledge?
Just in general. My tribe never really, settled there. So that's not really our place, but we respect it because the Sioux, they have that as like a sacred ground. Kind of like how we have a mountain like in kind of central Montana called Bear Butte. It's also another very sacred area that's sacred to my tribe, but other tribes see it as sacred as well because it's
like
sacred to us. Yeah, exactly. So for the Black Hills, there was a huge, I don't want to say riot, but kind of a huge riot about not building a pipeline through it. Or a second pipeline. I'm really foggy on the, facts on that, but everybody kind of pushed against doing that because that's a really sacred area. You don't want to desecrate it. You don't want to put anything, bad there that could, break apart and ruin the land. The Dakota Access Pipeline was another one that would have gone through, very sacred areas. So it's not so much as a burial ground as it is just a sacred area.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It just kind of like shows you though, like how.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's just like always a classic horror movie trope of, oh, it's on a Native American burial ground.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the whole premise of Poltergeist is built off of that idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's probably even worse if you do it over an actual burial ground. But
so that's how you get Poltergeist to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Just some messed up stuff happening in that movie.
Yeah. I mean, why would you build anything over a burial ground anyway if the bodies are still there? That's
true. I mean, I don't know. It's like long forgotten. I mean, there's a story I was kind of touched on a little bit in our Ghost of Gettysburg episode where they built the high school literally on a Confederate mass burial site. And they had all this paranormal activity until they were like, oh, well, maybe, or they were going to build the football field over it or something. And they excavated it and pulled all the bodies out. And that's like all the paranormal stuff stopped.
Well, of course.
So clearly there's a lack of communication when it comes to building things on places where people are buried. Anything else you got, Nick?
No, it's just a really eye-opening and just cool to hear like other perspectives.
Yeah,
like
this is a less spooky episode than usual.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with that. So this is all like it's the native. I mean, really any culture, This is just like scratching the surface. Like if you look at any culture, any tribe, anything across the world, there's just like, and you could literally find probably anything on like paranormal, cryptids, whatever it is. So very broad topic.
It's good to get a different kind of perspective.
A first-hand account.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your stories too, because that's like,
absolutely.
That's pretty wild.
Thanks for asking.
You're welcome. So what are you up to, Courtney? What do you have any plugs you want to get out of the way, or any good stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess I could talk about MMIW.
Do it.
Please do.
Yeah. Now it's been, I guess, expanded to MMIR is the easiest way to say all of them: missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. Kind of like what Nick was talking about with the Navajo police. If a white woman goes missing, the FBI is all over it. But if a native goes missing, it takes weeks, months. Sometimes they never really get involved.
No response at all.
Yeah, exactly. No response at all. So this kind of movement started back in the 90s. I believe it was 93, 95, where Hannah Harris, she was actually a Northern Cheyenne. She was my distant second cousin. She was actually kidnapped, trafficked, and then murdered. Unfortunately, she was very young, and that kind of sparked a rage throughout Native American culture that we're not seeing these women protected. We're not seeing these relatives taken care of. So now it's become a very large movement, as it should. It's very prevalent in Canada. There was actually a very recent serial killer. I don't remember his name. I don't really want to say his name because we don't care about him. We care about his victims.
Right.
He had done that. He had murdered and I believe dismembered his victims in Canada, but they finally caught him. And he is now in prison, which is great. But that is a great cause. Definitely look into it. If you don't know what it is, it pushes the FBI to kind of get involved and doesn't leave it just to the tribes to find, these women and men and, anybody really that gets taken.
Right.
Because nobody really pays attention, unfortunately.
We'll be sure to post that information in our bio. Please, if you have any sort of resources, anything that you can provide to this cause, or even just spreading the awareness, that speaks monuments to like what you can do as help. So be on the lookout for that information in the aftermath of the episode. We'll be sure to kind of drop that.
Probably something like that.
Yep, drop it in the link. Yep.
Well, Courtney, thanks for hanging out with us today and talking all things your tribe's culture and spiritual things and shapeshifters.
Thanks for inviting me. This has been a fun time.
So thanks for tuning into this episode of Shadows and Sightings. We'll catch you all the next time when we talk about all things spooky.